Marcus Aurelius on difficult people. A coworker interrupts you for the third time. Someone pushes ahead of you in a queue without even looking back. A family member makes the same passive-aggressive comment they always make. You open your phone and discover that a stranger has written an entire paragraph explaining why you are an idiot. And suddenly, this person has taken control of your mind. The conversation ends, but you continue arguing with them in your head. You imagine what you should have said. You complain about them to someone else. Hours later, you are still irritated, while they have probably forgotten the interaction entirely. We often believe that difficult people are obstacles to a peaceful life. If only our colleagues were more considerate. If only our relatives were less judgmental. If only people online were capable of disagreeing without becoming insulting. Then, perhaps, we could finally become calm, patient, and reasonable. But the Roman philosopher Marcus Aurelius would say that we have this completely backwards. You do not become patient in a world where nobody irritates you. You do not become fair when everyone treats you fairly. And you do not develop self-control when nothing provokes you. These qualities only become real when another person tests them. The difficult person is not interrupting your practice. They are the practice. How to deal with annoying people without losing your mind. The morning warning. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful people in the ancient world, but power did not protect him from frustrating people. As Roman emperor, he had to deal with political rivals, unreliable officials, arrogant members of the court, military commanders, petitioners, flatterers, and people who wanted something from him. His book, Meditations, was not written as a public philosophy textbook. It was a collection of reminders written largely to himself, an attempt to practice the principles he did not want to forget. One of those reminders appears near the beginning of the book. Marcus tells himself that when he gets up in the morning, he should expect to meet people who are interfering, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and antisocial. This sounds pessimistic. Imagine beginning every morning by thinking, "Today I will probably meet several irritating people." But Marcus is not trying to make himself cynical. He is trying to prevent surprise, because much of our anger comes not only from what someone does, but from our belief that they should not have done it. How could someone be so selfish? How could she speak to me like that? How can he possibly think this is acceptable? The behavior may genuinely be selfish, rude, or dishonest, but our shock adds a second layer of suffering. First, the person behaves badly. Then we torment ourselves with the belief that people should never behave badly. Marcus removes that second layer before the day even begins. Difficult behavior is not a mysterious violation of the universe. It is part of living among imperfect human beings, and you are one of those imperfect human beings too. In the same passage, Marcus reminds himself that he and the wrongdoer share the same human nature and are made for cooperation. His preparation is therefore not an excuse to hate people. It is preparation to meet their faults without being psychologically captured by them. This is the first practical lesson. Expect imperfection without becoming contemptuous. You can recognize that someone is behaving badly without acting as though you have just discovered that bad behavior exists. Your character needs resistance. Think about patience as a physical ability. You cannot discover how strong your legs are by sitting in a comfortable chair. Strength appears when there is resistance. A weight gives your muscles something to work against. In the same way, another person's impatience gives your patience something to work against. Their unfairness creates an opportunity to practice fairness. Their lack of restraint creates an opportunity to practice self-control. Without resistance, these qualities remain imaginary. It is easy to believe you are calm when everyone agrees with you. It is easy to believe you are forgiving when nobody has seriously offended you. It is easy to believe you are a good listener when nobody is saying anything you dislike. We often evaluate our character under ideal conditions. I'm a patient person, except when people are incompetent. I'm open-minded, except when the other person's opinion is ridiculous. I'm compassionate, except toward people who don't deserve compassion. But a quality that disappears the moment it becomes inconvenient is not yet a reliable part of your character. It is a preference. You prefer to be calm when calmness is easy. You prefer to be fair when fairness costs you nothing. Marcus offers a more demanding standard. Your character is not what you announce about yourself. It is the response you repeatedly choose when another response is more tempting. The rude person, therefore, reveals something useful. They show you the distance between your principles and your reflexes. You may believe that insults do not matter, but one sarcastic comment ruins your afternoon. You may believe that everyone deserves to be heard, but you stop listening as soon as you feel criticized. You may believe that revenge is childish, but you feel an immediate desire to embarrass anyone who embarrasses you. The difficult person exposes the unfinished parts of your philosophy. That is uncomfortable, but it is also valuable. You cannot train a weakness you refuse to see. Turning the obstacle into material. Marcus writes that the mind can transform a hindrance to its activity into an aid. Something may prevent you from completing your original plan, but it does not have to prevent you from exercising good judgment and good character. The obstacle can become material for a new kind of action. Suppose you enter a meeting intending to present an idea. Before you can finish, a colleague interrupts you, dismisses the idea, and takes the conversation in another direction. Your original aim has been obstructed. You wanted to communicate clearly and be taken seriously. But a second opportunity has appeared. Can you recover without becoming aggressive? Can you defend your idea without humiliating your colleague? Can you notice your anger before it chooses your words? Can you be firm without turning the meeting into a personal battle? The interruption has created a different test. Your colleague may have prevented you from having an easy meeting. They have not prevented you from practicing courage, fairness, or self-command. This does not mean pretending the interruption was good. It means refusing to waste it. The situation has already happened. Your only decision is whether it becomes meaningless frustration or useful training. A difficult person can block one path while opening another. You may lose the opportunity to have a peaceful conversation, but you gain the opportunity to practice remaining peaceful during a difficult one. 3 qualities. Difficult people train. Let us make this more concrete. When someone irritates you, 3 qualities are usually being tested: patience, fairness, and self-control. Patience. Patience does not mean feeling no irritation. It means creating a gap between irritation and action. The first reaction is often physical. Your chest tightens, your face becomes warm, your attention narrows. You begin preparing a response before the other person has finished speaking. At that moment, your mind produces an urgent command. Do something now. Correct them now. Defend yourself now. Send the message now. But urgency is not always truth. Patience allows the first wave of emotion to pass before you decide what the situation requires. Sometimes you need only 3 seconds. Sometimes you need to leave the room. Sometimes you need to write the email, save it as a draft, and read it the next morning. A delayed response is not automatically a weak response. It may be the first response that is actually yours. Fairness. When we are angry, we simplify people. One selfish action becomes proof that the person is selfish in every area of life. One foolish comment becomes evidence that they are a complete fool. One betrayal turns them into a villain with no motives except cruelty. Fairness means describing the behavior accurately without enlarging it. There was an important deadline, and he failed to complete his part. That may be true. He never cares about anyone except himself. That is a much larger judgment. You may feel it, but you do not know it. Fairness asks you to distinguish between what you observed and the story you added. It also asks you to consider what the situation looks like from the other person's mind. Marcus repeatedly advises himself to examine what the wrongdoer believes to be good or necessary. Understanding those beliefs, he suggests, can reduce astonishment and anger, even when the person remains mistaken. Understanding is not approval. You can understand why someone lied and still confront the lie. You can understand why someone is defensive and still refuse to accept abusive behavior. The purpose of understanding is not to eliminate responsibility. It is to prevent anger from replacing reality with a cartoon. Self-control. Self-control means refusing to let another person choose your character for you. An insulting person invites you to become insulting. An aggressive person pressures you to become aggressive. A dishonest person tempts you to become manipulative. You begin by condemning their behavior and end by imitating it. Marcus gives himself a severe but memorable instruction. The best form of revenge is not to become like the wrongdoer. This changes the meaning of victory. Winning is not necessarily making the other person regret challenging you. Winning is leaving the interaction without surrendering control of who you are. If another person can turn you cruel simply by being cruel first, they have more influence over your character than they should. The annoying coworker. Imagine that a colleague regularly talks over you. You have tolerated it for weeks. Today, it happens again. The instinctive responses exist at two extremes. At one extreme, you say nothing. You smile, suppress your anger, and complain to someone else later. At the other extreme, you publicly attack them. You interrupt everyone because you're incapable of listening. The first response has no courage. The second has no fairness. A Stoic response tries to preserve both. You might say, "I'd like to finish this point, and then I'm happy to hear your response." If it continues, speak to them privately. "I've noticed that I'm frequently being interrupted before I finish. I want our discussions to be direct, but I also need enough space to explain my position." This is not passive. You are naming the behavior. You are setting an expectation. You may need to document the pattern, involve a manager, or take further action. But you are trying to correct the problem without using humiliation as a weapon. Marcus offers a simple social principle: either teach people or bear with them. This does not mean that you must personally educate every rude person you meet. It means that endless resentment is not a useful third option. When correction is possible, correct. When the issue is too small to justify correction, let it pass. When neither correction nor tolerance is safe, create distance. But do not spend 6 months silently collecting evidence for a prosecution that will occur only inside your imagination. The difficult family member. Workplace conflicts are often easier than family conflicts because families know where your emotional buttons are, and sometimes seem committed to pressing every one of them. A parent criticizes your choices. A sibling makes a familiar joke at your expense. A relative turns every conversation into a competition. Because the pattern is old, your reaction may begin before the person has even finished the sentence. You are not only responding to what they said today, you are responding to 10 years of similar comments. In this situation, character practice begins with refusing to perform your usual role. Perhaps your normal role is the defender. You explain every choice until the conversation becomes a courtroom. Perhaps your role is the attacker. You answer criticism by identifying the other person's weaknesses. Or perhaps your role is the silent victim. You say nothing, remain polite, and feel resentful for several days. The Stoic question is not, how do I finally make this person understand me? You may never control that. The question is, what would a patient, fair, and self-controlled response look like this time? It could be, I understand that you disagree. I'm not discussing this decision again. Or, when you make jokes about that subject, I don't find them funny. Please stop. Then stop explaining. A boundary becomes weaker when it is buried beneath a 20-minute attempt to persuade the other person that your boundary is reasonable. You do not need their philosophical agreement before you are allowed to leave the conversation. Calmness is not endless availability. Sometimes the calmest response is to end the interaction. The stranger on the internet. Online conflict offers a special challenge because it removes many of the signals that normally remind us we are interacting with human beings. You do not see the other person's face. You do not hear uncertainty in their voice. You see only a sentence, and your imagination constructs the rest. You imagine the person as stupid, malicious, or representative of everything wrong with society. Then you begin writing a response designed not to persuade them, but to punish them. Before replying, ask 3 questions. First, is there a real misunderstanding here that can be clarified? Second, is this person capable of having the conversation I'm about to begin? Third, am I responding to improve the situation or because I want an audience to watch me defeat them? Sometimes a clear response is worthwhile. Sometimes the comment reveals an error that other viewers may share. But many online arguments continue because neither person wants understanding. They want the emotional reward of retaliation. You are not obligated to attend every argument to which you are invited. The block button can be an instrument of wisdom. So can silence. Not every insult deserves access to your afternoon. The limitation. Patience is not submission. This philosophy becomes dangerous when patience is confused with tolerating everything. There are situations in which another person's behavior is not merely irritating. It may be abusive, threatening, discriminatory, coercive, or persistently destructive. In these cases, the appropriate response may involve leaving, reporting the behavior, protecting someone else, contacting authorities, or ending the relationship. Stoic self-control does not require you to remain inside a harmful situation. It asks you to choose your action through judgment rather than blind rage. Marcus himself did not suggest that justice should be replaced by endless tolerance. In his reflections on anger, he recommends calm correction, but also acknowledges that people can be put right when possible and that attention should remain on what is just. Fairness applies to you as well as to the difficult person. It is not fair to let someone repeatedly harm you because you want to prove how philosophical you are. The Stoic goal is not to become impossible to offend because you have lost all standards. It is to preserve your standards without becoming possessed by hatred. You can impose consequences without revenge. You can leave without delivering a final speech. You can protect yourself without needing to dehumanize the person from whom you are protecting yourself. The important distinction is between a boundary and a punishment. A boundary says, I will not remain in a conversation where I am being insulted. A punishment says, I need to make you suffer because you insulted me. From the outside, both may involve walking away, but internally they are entirely different actions. A practice for this week. Here is one exercise to try for the next 7 days. Call it the difficult person drill. Each morning, choose one quality you want to practice. patience, fairness, or self-control. Do not ask for a peaceful day. Assume that someone will give you an opportunity to practice. Then, when irritation appears, follow 3 steps. Step 1, name the test. Silently tell yourself, this is a test of patience, or this is a test of fairness. Naming the quality interrupts the story that this interaction is merely an attack. It turns the situation into practice. Step 2, separate the event from your judgment. Describe what happened using the smallest accurate sentence possible. She interrupted me. He arrived 20 minutes late. They criticized my work. Avoid adding, she has no respect for anyone. He thinks his time is more important than mine. They want to humiliate me. Those conclusions may occasionally be correct, but in the heat of the moment, they are often emotional guesses disguised as facts. Begin with what you know. Step 3. Choose the response you will respect tomorrow. Not the response that feels satisfying for 10 seconds. The response you will respect when the emotion is past. That could mean asking a direct question, correcting false information, setting a boundary, leaving the room, or doing absolutely nothing. At the end of the day, review one difficult interaction. Do not ask, did I remain perfectly calm? You probably will not. Ask, where did I regain control? Perhaps you were angry for an hour instead of an entire day. Perhaps you avoided sending one cruel message. Perhaps you stated a boundary without shouting. That is practice. Character is not transformed through one heroic interaction. It is built through small moments in which you notice your automatic response and choose something slightly better. Conclusion. The world will always contain people who interrupt, exaggerate, complain, boast, criticize, misunderstand, and behave unfairly. Marcus Aurelius does not offer a method for removing them. He offers a method for preventing their behavior from deciding yours. Difficult people reveal whether your values can survive contact with reality. They teach you where your patience ends, where your fairness becomes selective, where your self-control is still dependent on everyone else behaving correctly. This does not make bad behavior acceptable. It makes it usable. The person who irritates you becomes resistance against which character can grow. The next time someone provokes you, remember, this is not the moment when your philosophy has failed. This is the moment when philosophy becomes necessary. You do not need to thank the difficult person. You do not need to enjoy the interaction. You only need to leave it without becoming the kind of person you were angry with. Because patience that has never been tested is only an idea. Fairness toward people you like is easy. And self-control in perfect conditions is not self-control at all. Your character becomes real when someone gives you a reason to abandon it. And you decide not to. This week, identify one difficult interaction and ask, what quality is this giving me the opportunity to practice?